Hey guys, this is Tom Paul Tipton, your host for the Exchange Podcast. We're coming to you from Living Water Church in Conway, Arkansas. I'd like to welcome you back to another episode and say thank you to those who support this podcast with your contributions. Please like and share us on Facebook and get the word out, and like, subscribe, and share us on YouTube. Send any questions you have and join in on the exchange. So on my way to the studio today, I saw something very interesting. I've not been like out all over the world, but I have been down to Mexico where the homeless are really homeless down there in a lot of areas. And so just coming off the interstate and turning out on this this road here, what is that, Oakland or something? Whatever that street name is. You know what I'm talking about? You're coming off I-40?
Oak Street.
Oak Street, that's it. So there's this homeless guy, panhandler.
With a dog?
No, he didn't have a dog.
Oh.
He might have had a dog, but he had this sign that read, what does it matter if the earth is flat? And then he had Proverbs written underneath that, but he didn't give any kind of verse.
Yeah.
Chapter or verse. So I don't know what he's referring to. But what I really liked on top of that was he said I looked in his ear and he had this really cool Bluetooth in there. Of
course.
And I was like, how do you have a Bluetooth if you can't? Right? Where do you get that? I mean, because you have to pay a monthly payment.
Look.
That.
You know, it's been said before, we've got fat homeless people. That means they're eating something. And that means those with the cool gadgets have money for something. And there was a whole spread done on this guy back in California who made a six-figure income just by panhandling. So
that was right after the Cincinnati Oakland A's World Series back in the late 80s.
Yeah. Because
I actually saw that because he said that he was making more money doing that than he had been like a CEO or CFO of a big corporation.
He wasn't like destitute. He just chose to panhandle.
Yeah, because he ever since there was something, I can't remember what it was, like whatever happened to, people, and they kind of went through people living in Oakland, California area right after that earthquake. And what he did is he went to panhandling because where he was working, he was out of work.
Yeah.
And so he went to panhandling, and in the process found out that he was making more money than he was if he had went back to work.
Yep. Which
brings up a great point. Someone actually was talking about that, and they said that one of the reasons why, especially ever since COVID, people just quit their jobs.
Yeah.
And that they are making more money, and many people are choosing to remain homeless so they don't have to go back to work.
Well, there's also the lie of, working from home, that's the new norm. Well, listen, I'll say it like this. Okay, our Pastor Chris, is really good at his job, really good at what he does, and he could get away from working from home, I'm sure. Maybe occasionally going out to a job site, and he's a vice president of a company, and I can see how somebody who's worked their butt off, worked their way up through a company, could easily just say, hey, I'm going to work from home 3 days out of the week. But there's a lot of people who are saying, I can do my job from home, and you are customer service or something.
Right.
Okay, here's the thing. I get it. I understand that. But are you really fulfilled there? Are you really? Because if you stay home, and it's been proven, if you don't get the interaction with other humans, and I'm not saying work is the only place you get interaction with other humans, but that staying home creates complacency and laziness. And don't get me wrong, I can see the benefits of it.
Yeah.
If the job makes sense to do it, but the reality is we got more jobs that we need people to actually do physical labor here and there than we have people who, I'm going to be a writer for BuzzFeed or something and just stay home.
Well, there is a scripture that says, as iron sharpens iron. I mean, you can work from home, but I think that a lot of times the friendly competition in the workplace works better.
Yeah, it does. Well, and again, I'm an advocate for a hybrid style of, if you're a mom, for instance, but you have a job, because that happens. Okay.
Yeah.
We live in a world where both parents may have to work, and look, it'd be great if you could stay home and just type up certain reports or work on certain things from home and be a parent if that's what you wanted to do. But overall, this whole the COVID-19 thing with everybody quitting, the reason why I mentioned staying at home and working is because I see a lot of people quitting because they can't stay at home and work from home.
Right.
And I just don't see the benefit of it, besides getting a chance to sleep in a little later, I guess.
Well, that's really the only benefit, and really, that actually leads me to what I wanted to direct part of this podcast to, and that is
how you left me last week and made me hang out.
How
to
did
dry.
that go? That went well. I think
it went well. I had a lot of fun. That was a joke, everybody. I'm not mad at Thomas. No, I think it went well. Like I was saying right afterwards, somebody asked me, are you going to go into politics? And it was a good, genuine question. And I think my grandma brought it up to my brother, not because of the podcast, but it was just something I thought of. And it's something that I just want to say real quick before we jump into your thing. Why don't people just jump into their local politics, guys? It doesn't seem it's simple. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's simple. You just spread the word around. You get off your butt and you go out and you say, hey, I'm going to run for city council member. I'm going to run for mayor or something. But locally, that's something I think people should be doing, and it's something that I've been praying and thinking about. And maybe one day, you might see a vote for JaVaughn Iversen for mayor or something.
I got a friend back in Tennessee who did that. He ran for. I think he's some kind of town councilman. I don't know if he's alderman, but he won, and we actually endorsed him from this podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not saying we got him into office, but I think he'll do good. For me, because I've got a few friends that are in politics.
Yeah.
And I think that I do think that there is this movement that people are starting to realize that, hey, I could go do this, but how effective am I being? And so I think a lot of people are realizing that if you want to be more effective in your society, that it probably is better to go join a city council, go join not the groups that over schools. What are those called? PTA.
PTA meetings. Yeah.
Go join one of those and go be a voice, because what's happening is a lot of people on the conservative or the right side of things have kind of withdrawn just to live life.
I'm not going to say they've withdrawn. I think personally, and I
think in the past they have, not now.
I'm going to try to articulate this the best I can. The right seems to be a bit more, all right, we've accomplished this, I'm going to stay right here.
Yeah.
And the thing I can give to the left, Democrats in general, they never shut up.
No, because what they do, they're much more effective than we are.
Oh, much more effective.
And when I say we, I consider myself conservative. They're much more effective because what conservatives do is they wait from election to election.
They hunker down.
Yeah.
They hunker down. They go, I got my home, I got my stuff, I'm not going to worry about anything. For instance, Hollywood used to be pretty conservative. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
John Wayne?
Yeah.
That's a conservative storytelling right there.
Yeah.
All the things he was in.
Yeah, because go back to the McCarthy hearings, which I think some of that was probably a little bit of overreach.
Yeah.
But the point is there was a lot of people like John Wayne, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
And at that time, Ronald Reagan was a Democrat.
Right.
And so they were.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. That's how he started his career off was the Democrat Party. And he is the one who was famous for making the statement, I didn't leave the Democrats left me.
Yeah.
And which brings us into Tulsi Gabbard leaving, which is big news. She left the Democrat Party.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
You don't?
No.
Okay. Let me rephrase that. She is still big government.
Yeah, that's look. The reason being
she left the craziness.
Okay, so you leave the craziness, but I need at least 2 to 3 years to watch you kind of absolve yourself of the craziness.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like that saying, you could take such and such out of such and such, but you can't take such and such out whatever.
Right,
You know
right.
that saying? There's millions of ways of saying that. And when Tulsi Gabbard says, I'm leaving the Democrats because of this, it's like, wait a minute. They've been doing this for a while, and now you're leaving? What's, what big thing aren't you telling us because you're leaving now? Because Democrats have been war hawks for at least since I've been around in this lifetime. I know before me, I've read stories, I've seen documentaries of the Democrats of the past where they were like, we don't want war. We don't want this. We don't want things to be unraveling.
Right.
They were the peacekeepers or trying to be the peacekeepers.
Right.
But now it's like, ever since I knew anything about politics, which was President Obama becoming President Obama, and ever since then, it's been war after war after war after war. Mind you, those 8 years of him being a president was new war here, new war there, drone strike this, drone strike that. So in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know who the war hawks are now, because, again, it's on both sides. The establishment, I should say, of the government.
Because one positive point to Donald Trump was he got us out.
Yeah, no new wars there. And I will always criticize him for drone striking and bombing.
I don't know, because when you look at the people that he did the drone strikes on, they were people that were absolute threats. They were real threats.
There were people who still there was. I'm gonna have to look it up. Bear with me. I'll look it up, and I'll probably say it next week, so I have it on hand. But I know an American citizen was killed by one of his drone strikes, and that the media was praising Donald Trump the one time and saying, "Oh, he's now acting presidential because he's dropping bombs."
Yeah.
And the thing is that anytime we're bombing something that we shouldn't be bombing, I'm going to criticize.
Yeah,
that.
let's look that up, because I'm interested in. Was that somebody that he bombed? I think I remember what you're talking about. And that was someone, the conservatives actually did condemn him on that.
Nawar al-Awlaki.
Yeah, because of the fact that
8-year-old American citizen who was killed on January 29, 2017 during the raid on Yakla, a commando attack ordered by U.S. President Donald Trump. So that's again, that's
where was the kid
criticism.
at?
Apparently in this place in Yakla.
So he's 8 years old, so the kid actually couldn't make a decision on where he would or would not be.
No, but again, here's my thing. Still an American citizen, still should have we should do the due diligence to go, okay, which one of these are and are not American citizens before we just blow something.
Yeah, no, that was one of the things I remember a little bit about that, because that was one of the things that was brought up, was that it was an American citizen, and the fact that you are an American citizen, you are governed by certain rights that nobody else in the world is. As far as the praising of it, that's a little too far. I wouldn't praise that. However, I will say this: it does have an effect. Ronald Reagan did not mean to kill Muammar Gaddafi's son, 12-year-old son, but it happened.
Yeah,
and the outcome of the effect of that was Gaddafi capitulated quickly, because what he did is he thought, "Oh, I got somebody here who doesn't care."
Okay, so here's
understand?
Yeah, I get that. Here's my thing about that. And I tell people, and I'm going to stand by this because I tell people in private how I feel about this. When it comes to U.S. citizens, I don't care whether you're 8 years old or 80 years old. No one should be harming my people, period. These are my people. Everybody who's America right here are my people. Christians around the world are my people. Mm-hmm. That's something I want to stress too. However, I want to hear the poor soul who harmed any American to come out and say, I made a mistake. Mm-hmm. Whether it's we put a gun to your head because you made that mistake and you harmed an American, or if the president made the mistake of, wow, I should have done more research into this of, okay, there's an American citizen there. Why don't we go in there, get that kid out, and kill whoever else we need to kill?
Yeah.
Because that's my criticism every time, is because drone strikes are Call of Duty for the adults, and you get to kind of wipe your hands of, you get to Pontius Pilate, well, it was a drone strike, and we can't really control who's walking where, and then, shucks, that's too bad, and that's my thing. I will always be critical.
So here's the question, though, that I'm going to ask anytime, and I'm the same way. I don't want Americans harmed. There are a few things that I'm always going to ask. Number one, what is the American doing? Why is the American in harm's way? I'm sure you've probably seen the movie We Were Soldiers, and you've got where he calls in Broken Arrow, and there's some, and as the pilot's flying in, Colonel Moore realizes that there's some Americans in the path of that bomb that's getting ready to get released. And so he tells the guy, call him off, but it was too late.
Yeah, I get that.
And so some Americans get killed.
Are these soldiers?
Yeah, they're soldiers. But the point being is, okay, if you have an American citizen, what is that American citizen involving themselves in, first off?
Okay, well, this is an 8-year-old. So
8-year-old.
Unfortunately.
But see, that's what I'm saying. I don't have the backstory on this. Why was that kid there? Because that kid wasn't making the decision.
No, the kid's not making the decision, but I am a staunch believer, or a staunch critic of the idea of sins of our father, in terms of my child does not need to suffer if there are possible ways, and I will not accept that there are no ways to get a child out if we can find Osama bin Laden in a bunker and pinpoint which room he's in and what is going to be on his television screen at some time. So that's my biggest thing, is that if the president comes out and says, I made a mistake, the thing I'm wanting is remorse for this, because again, when it's a drone strike, and I'm not saying Donald Trump wouldn't show remorse for this, when it's a drone strike, it is a desensitized way of killing without prejudice, and just, hey, we're just going to drop a bomb here, wipe my hands clean, go home, sleep on it, it's all right, and then move on to the next day, which is the criticism I'm levying against Donald Trump and any other president who has the gall to just drop bombs. Now, of course, every president since I've been aware of my own consciousness has been dropping bombs indiscriminately, but I still want to hold every single president accountable and give criticism. So I'm not going to say Biden and Obama suck, and then because my gas prices were near perfect under Donald Trump, I'm not going to criticize them for that mistake, because I think these are mistakes that could be, I think they're mistakes if they happen once, right? But if it's Obama bombing a bunch of people, and he's killed multiple American citizens, he's killed children who weren't even in the area of something that was dangerous. That wasn't a mistake. That was, we can drone strike as many times as we want. So what I'm trying to get at is that main thing is that I'm going to criticize where criticism is needed. And I think that's something we don't do enough.
But as I'm reading this, it wasn't just a drone strike. There was Navy SEALs involved in this.
Okay.
And the objective here was to go in and, it looks like, evacuate some wounded commandos. And then the aircraft that was there to do that, it says, came under fire and had to be intentionally destroyed in place. So just kind of reading off what I'm reading here, I think the girl's father was a terrorist. Am I wrong on that? I think that's what it's saying, that the girl's father was a terrorist.
Yeah. She was. It wasn't. I just did some research, so my apologies. I'm going to retract what I said about the drone strike killing her. She was killed by a bullet to the neck. So
yeah. So I mean,
even more so, it is a, hey, we should be very heavy-handed. Even again, I do not believe in the idea of sins of our fathers because of the grace of Jesus Christ. I believe everybody, if your father was a drunkard, you have the ability to turn away from that sin. Yeah. Therefore, if I'm to give grace to a child, even though their father is a terrorist, I will show that child grace by not indiscriminately firing into a room or anything. And again, I think we should always criticize anything that has to do with government. I'm not anti-military. I'm not anti-Navy SEALs. I need to stress that. What I am anti is not doing the due diligence to make sure this child was taken care of, because again, our priority is to protect our citizens first. It should be heavy-handed on the it should be. I know you wanted to get to a certain topic, so I just want to.
No, I do want to get to that. The thing that I always want to look at, and again, and I'm with you on that. While we need to be heavy-handed and critical of what our government's doing, we also have to be very heavy-handed and critical of when the media reports something.
You're right, yeah.
Because the media is known to be liars. I think we have to look at no further than Alex Jones, and I'm not a fan of Alex Jones.
Yeah.
But they just made the guy pay $2 billion that he does not have.
Almost, yeah, he was almost.
And so, the point that I'm making here is, let's be honest, why they did what they did. It has nothing to
Alex Jones.
Yeah, It has nothing to do with that he made a statement that offended people. Because guess what? If we're going to do that, then you have to make Joe Biden and that entire administration and the U.S. government pay every MAGA conservative.
Every MAGA conservative, but let's just keep it simple. Kyle Rittenhouse.
That's right.
The president of the United States called him a white supremacist.
That's right. And so the point being is, how many? It's called collateral damage. And what a lot of people understand about war's main objective is not to kill people. War's main objective is to destroy inanimate or physical objects rather, and hold real estate. The unfortunate side effect is that people die because you have one army attacking, one army defending.
Yes.
So while that's horrible that an 8-year-old kid died, what we know is that her dad was a terrorist. So she was in that compound for a reason. And one of the things I'll never forget, I had a Western civilization professor. His uncle was a World War II veteran, and he told me, he said when he was in college, Vietnam was being fought, and he said, I remember sitting there watching on television, and they would show these kids that were being killed, and he said my uncle told me, said, Clay, that happened in World War II because the Germans were putting 12-year-old kids out on the field.
Yeah,
so in that kind of situation, I'm not there. I don't know what kind of duress, I don't know what kind of stress those guys are under.
Oh, yeah.
And I got somebody walking out in front of me in the direction I'm moving.
With a gun.
Yeah, I have to assume, as I heard one deep sea diver say, when you're deep sea diving, everything is suspect until it isn't.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
Right?
Well, I get that.
And so in that situation, I have to look at it and go, in that situation, we really don't know what was going on.
I'm going to say this, though. I hear what you're saying. I hear that things are crazy. This is my answer to that. Those are Germans.
Okay.
Meaning, if the Germans want to put every kid, boy, girl, whatever, out in front to get shot, that's on them. Mm-hmm. However, the hint that there is but one American citizen, because I will use Blackstone's formula for American citizens here, which is based on what we both know to be the story of Lot. If there is but 10, would you spare this? If there is but one American, what I'm saying is we should drop everything, which is why people don't kidnap Americans in third world countries, because they know we will drop heaven and earth on them if we need to. Meaning, as long as there is a hint of an American citizen in danger anywhere, you do your due diligence to figure out where they're at, who they're with, how to get them out quickly, quietly if you have to, loudly if you have to, and that's your main priority. So Germans, and this is going to sound harsh, but the reality is we were at war with them. You want to put your kids in danger? That's on you.
Well, they weren't there to save that girl. Let's go ahead and set that.
That's what I'm saying.
They weren't there to save her.
They're not there to save her. But here's my question. why doesn't our intelligence agencies, which I do believe are the best in the world, even if I don't like them all the time, why are our intelligence agencies not saying, hey, listen, so we know this guy's a terrorist, but his daughter could be there, and she is still an American citizen. Better for her to be orphaned because her dad's a terrorist and come back to the States and have a chance at a better life than a bullet in the neck. So your first priority is to kill this guy. However, be mindful that there are children so we can...
Well, it's the same thing with the Gonzalez story, right? Going back to the last year that Bill Clinton was in office, and they go in Florida, and the kid's a Cuban, and he's here, Clinton sends in the SWAT team, and they extract the kid, take the kid, send him back to Cuba, and that caused a lot of friction. Again, that's a situation where the question I'm asking, did they know the girl? I can't imagine any military. Well, let me back this up. In that situation, I still would like to know, when the SEAL aimed down on her, did he know she was an American citizen? Or was there a kid in front of him who, under the pressure and duress of kill or be killed, and let's face it, that's war.
I'll be honest. I don't think
his job was to save commandos that were downed.
Sure.
Not a kid.
Sure. But here's my thing. I don't see we're talking about an 8-year-old kid. This isn't like a 12, 13-year-old kid who has the cognitive brain of, I'm in danger, so I must defend myself. It's a kid who hears loud noises, and their first reaction 9 times out of 10 will be to try to hide. I don't think the SEAL saw said child. What I think was, it was a stray round, probably went through a wall, probably went through something, probably just didn't even hit anything, and she was just in the pathway of the round.
Yeah, and of which case that's quite possible. But I would also tell you, go and talk to any military combatant.
I'm aware. I'm aware that I'm aware of the duress and
it's not even the duress, but you say it's a kid. No, they put those kids out with weapons.
I know. And here's and again, they put them out with weapons, and it's like I said. You said we got to be wary of what the actual media puts out there. My biggest thing is that it wasn't just CNN, Fox News, and the mainstream everything. No, Tim Pool was talking about this type of stuff. This is something that Tim Pool, and I saw it on Louder with Crowder for a little while, just these different things of, whoa, this sucks because an American citizen, an 8-year-old, was killed, and we need to question this. We need to actually bring this up. So I'm not saying this. I'm not saying that where the info, because again, I don't really trust the mainstream media, except for like sports. But even then, like, you can't trust it with that. But when a bunch of different outlets are talking about this 8-year-old girl, yes, the criticism needs to be, why didn't we do our due diligence to know that she might be there? So therefore, we need to be careful with this, because again, even if he was there, even if the SEALs were there to save somebody, even if the SEALs were there to kill this one guy, I still believe that the American citizens are going to be a higher priority of protection than anyone else in that battlefield. Now, again, I'm not going to say that what they did was wrong. Those Navy SEALs did their job, and therefore I will pat them on the back. I will offer them refuge. I will offer them love. I'm questioning their commander, the one who called it, the one who signed off on it. I'm not calling it on the boys on the ground. This is not I hate it when soldiers do this. No, soldiers in the field have so many different things running through their mind. I do not hold them accountable if something like this goes off. It's a matter of, I'm curious why there was no, why this didn't happen. And here's the thing. If somebody gave me an ample answer, like, hey, we just didn't know this guy had a daughter who was an American citizen, I would accept.
Well, even the girl's grandfather said that. He said he does not believe that they intentionally killed her.
No, I don't think anybody intentionally killed this girl. It's a matter of signing off on things, but then hey, there was an American citizen who was killed in this attack, and then just kind of saying, oh, anyway, let's move on to the next day. Because I don't think there was, I think there should be hey, we probably shouldn't sign off on these things until we actually are 100% certain, 99% certain, because you can't be 100% certain about anything,
right.
But 99% certain that we're not putting American citizens in danger. Everybody else at that point, tough. Sorry.
Yeah, I go with you as far as and I'm going to jump onto another subject.
Yeah, for sure.
But I go with you as far as the girl, because she was 8 years old, and there's a lot of moving parts there. But as far as an American citizen, look, if an American citizen goes out, because at the very onstart of the war on terror, they arrested the one guy, I can't think of his name, and he was an American citizen. Personally, I thought they should have shot him, okay, because he joined Al Qaeda.
Yeah, no, treasonous.
Just go ahead and
stuff.
shoot the guy.
Yeah, treasonous.
But they arrested him, and he stood trial, right? So I don't, again, without because honestly, I don't know why. This is the first I've actually heard about it, so I don't want to make too much of a statement on it
for sure
without that much facts and information. But what I've with the time remaining, what I have looked at is, we have to look at society, and I'm always, like I've said, the point of this podcast is to always look at what's going on in the world from a biblical worldview.
Right.
And one of the biggest talking points is the fact that they've added 86,000 IRS agents. 86,000. Okay?
Who are allowed to be armed.
And I think this is a perfect segue into I am not making a prediction. I am simply making a statement. I could see kids being shot. Okay? Because these guys are going to have the authority. Hypothetically, these guys are going to have the authority to breach doors. And part of what they sign is, are you willing to use deadly force if possible?
Yes, I saw that.
And so, in agreement with what you're saying, see, this is where we have a real issue, because my first question is, did they not learn anything from the tar and feathering? When the British soldiers decided, or the British Empire decided to send out people to go and collect taxes, and they would get tarred and feathered. These guys are going to be fully armed, fully equipped with all rounds, and I don't think these guys are going to ask questions once they start pulling triggers.
Well, the other thing is that they will be working with your local police department, so it's not just going to be them. It's not going to, because here's the thing: you don't need more than maybe 2 IRS agents.
They shouldn't be working with them at all.
No, they shouldn't. But hey, local governments work with the federal government all the time.
Because you know what's going to happen here. This is not going to be like the FBI, where the FBI can actually only get involved in one of a couple of ways. Either A, a sheriff has to invite them, or the family of a murdered member has to invite them if they feel that the local police department is incapable or incompetent of doing their job.
Interesting.
And that's really the only 2 ways, unless there's some kind of a crime that exceeds state lines.
Unless there's like a federal crime.
Yeah. So IRS isn't going to be under the same pretenses or the same restraints as FBI. And so the whole point of what I'm saying here is, I think the purpose of deciding to collect more taxes, we can go back to the scripture, we can go back to even the founding of this country. When a society lives in complete immoral, they cast off all restraint morally. One of the first things that happens is the money is attacked.
Yeah.
And one of the scriptures that I thought about as I was thinking about this week comes out of one that I think a lot of us know, a lot of us don't. It's out of 1 Samuel chapter 8. And it's the story of when Israel wants a king. And they, all through Judges, the Bible would say that every man did right did that which was right in his own sight, meaning that they had zero restraint in their life. And like this guy that I was talking about coming in here today, and he's got this Bluetooth, and he's and there are people that are walking away from jobs. They're quitting jobs. We know this, and they're willing to live homeless, and not have any kind of responsibility. We can look at Scripture, and one of the things that it says about Legion in the Bible is that he refused to live in a house. They couldn't get him to live in a house. There's something inhumane. There's something unhuman about they don't want the responsibility of that. And so I look at that and I go, okay, I do believe that this buildup of IRS agents to extract taxes is a very early stage of some things that are starting to come on due to our lack of restraint.
Yeah, so the idea of people not wanting to work is, it's going to sound weird when I say this. I was talking to somebody about this. It's the most human nature thing to be lazy because that is part of the curse from the fall. Because before, when there was no sin and Adam and Eve were just living in the garden, that was paradise. They didn't have to do anything. There were no thorns that they had to clean up from the bushes. There was nothing wrong there. So when you see people who say, I don't really want to work, I don't really want to do this, I don't want to do that, look, they're just being honest. That's the honest truth. And that's where discipline comes in. You see, you will find more people who are upset that you're suggesting them to be more disciplined than anything. A discussion I had with somebody actually 2 nights ago was the fact that this man, I want to say he's 24 years old, lives with his parents, and this is exactly what he said to me, Thomas. He says, I know that I need to get a job, but I would much rather sit and play video games all day, even though I hate it. He says he hates the idea that his coach in high school was right. If you don't work and you don't actually go after something, you will not be satisfied. And he says, I hate it. I hate the idea that he was right because I just don't want to do anything.
Sure.
And, I said, yeah, I get that. But the thing is, I also know what it's like to not have the privilege to be able to sit around and do nothing. And therefore, I was thrusted into actually being responsible, which I'm not upset about. In fact, I'm more than happy to say it was a blessing that my times during the summer were spent working out and playing football and learning those responsibilities. And I always say this to people. You can always tell when somebody wasn't part of like any type of responsible group growing up, meaning you could tell when somebody wasn't part of, and I'm talking more physical stuff, whether it was some type of martial arts, a sport, or even something like Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You always tell, and I'm going to say it's mainly men. You can always tell a man who didn't play a sport.
Yeah.
Because they'll always have an excuse for why they're not doing this, why they're not doing that. And that's what I think is coming, what it's coming to is that there is a demonic presence of this sloth mentality that's growing. And it's becoming more of, well, I just don't want to do this. And I'm telling you, the people in my life who are successful, or sorry, I'm not going to say successful, but are succeeding, you can tell we all played sports, either on the same team or we've met each other in a sport somewhere. And it's mind-boggling to see that.
Right. Well, so going back to 1 Samuel chapter 8, beginning with verse 10, it says, Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people who were asking him for a king. He said, this is what the king who will reign over you will claim as his rights. He will take your sons and make them serve with his chariots and horses, and they will run in front of the chariots. Some he will assign to be commanders of thousands and commanders of 50s, and others to plow. So I want to stop right there first where it says commanders of 50s. I mean, they're already talking about reviving the draft because the military all across 4 5 if you want to consider, but
they're very much.
they're
not,
like 20-some thousand or 200-some. I can't remember. It's several thousands.
There has to be like a quota, right? Of
yeah,
how many
they're not
people
reaching
join.
it.
Yeah.
They're not meeting it. So they're talking about possible conscription and reviving the draft.
It's not even just that though. It's not. And here's the thing. It's not because people won't join. It's because oh shucks, there's a guy that went over to Afghanistan to help people. He was on Joe Rogan a lot. I need to I'll find his name. But he was saying it's because young men are fat and lazy.
Yes,
They'll go to these military recruiters and they'll be like, "Hey, everything looks great. You got to lose weight."
Yeah.
Or everything looks great. Go get a doctor to check out your knees because someone who's my age, who's my height, weighing 300 and something pounds.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Well, but it goes back to what you said earlier too, that they're more willing to stay home, play video games than they are to actually go out and work.
Exactly.
Because when you stay home and you're doing nothing, boredom will create a hunger, and not in a good way. And so what happens with a lot of these guys is I remember hearing them say that if we had to raise a military right now, for instance, what's going on with Ukraine and has been ever since February, if we had to raise a military based on that the majority of people are that are conscription age would not pass the physical exam.
No,
and we would be in trouble. And so then the other things here, too, that he goes on to say, and it says, and others to plow his ground and reap his harvest, and still others to make weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. I mean, we see that with China buying up farmland.
Well, buying up farmland in our own country.
Yeah, because what's going to happen is they're going to drive the prices of our food up to the point that we are going to barely be able to afford anything. And then if you go out, have you ever noticed... I think is it under the Patriot Act? I think it's under that.
Boy, what a great name.
That was awesome. But I think that like if you have so many cases of water and you have so much like weatherproof ammunition that you can actually be put on a terrorist watch list.
Oh yeah, the list, the criteria to be put on a watch list.
Yeah,
is. It's easier to say what's not going to put me on the list.
Right.
So
but that's it.
It's what the generation before me did, because I was but a child when 2001 happened. The generation screwed up so hard in terms of, hey, should we relinquish all of our powers? Once that was put on the books, everybody should have been on the phone calling their congressman, calling their congresswoman saying, if you vote for this, I'm getting you the heck out of there.
Well, after 9/11, America hadn't been attacked since Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And so when 9/11 happened, and you look at the guy who actually wrote the bill, and his name escapes me now, but he wrote and framed the bill, the Patriot Act. He is also, or he either is or he was the climate change czar. So he's already like, which we're gonna delve into that in a later time. I think we're gonna try to put together a series on climate change and the religion of it. But he's like one of their high priests, and so he is completely all about make it as hard as you can on American citizens, and do it in the form of climate change.
Yeah. And
that is one of the darlings that you do not touch. And so, then he goes on here and he says, he will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves and give them to his attendants. He will take 1/10 of your grain and your vintage. Now, notice what he says about when he says he'll take your daughters. He's going to put them to forced labor. He's going to put the men to forced labor.
He's put the men to forced labor, and he's going to make the women breed.
And that's exactly what...
nobody likes it, but
that's what they're doing. And so it's like you try to tell people, look, if you think socialism is a good thing, no, they're not going to let you sit by and do nothing while AI takes care of it.
I thoroughly love the videos where the guy's making fun of it, and he goes, man, I can't wait till the revolution happens. I'm going to be teaching poetry and art, and then it skips to a later date where the revolution happens, and he goes and he's digging a hole, and he goes, "Hey, how's it going, comrade?" And he's like, "Get back to work." And he goes, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure."
Because that's what's going to happen. We have history to back that up. That's exactly what they told the Russians and they told.
Liberty is why we have art.
Yeah,
liberty is why. I'm going to say it again. Liberty is why we have art. You can't have what you have in terms of art. You morons who desecrated the Van Gogh painting. You don't get that without liberty of people just living. Like, you want to be an artist? You can. It's not lucrative when you're alive.
Right.
But if you want to do that, you can. We're not going to take you and say, hey, you have to go work. Okay?
Yep.
So that's my take on socialism for the day. Also, it was Tim Kennedy, by the way, who said that about recruitment.
About the...
why it's so low. He was saying that he was on Joe Rogan. Tim Kennedy was talking to Joe Rogan saying, we're not getting people in. We get kids in the door, but also, and this is me being hyperbolic, but like half of them are going off to play video games and half of them are fat.
Yeah.
And then,
Well, and that's it. And so, you look at how all this plays out. And so what happens, we've lost a sense of duty in this country. And even Russia's having that issue, which, I mean, I'm on their side in a lot of ways for what they're doing, but I'm against the guy that went into their recruiting office. I mean, we had this happen in our country. And my understanding is I think he went in and shot some recruiters or something. But
Jiminy Christmas.
but the point being is that they, they are protesting this attack. They are protesting this invasion, and I'm okay with that. But at the same time, they may let you protest going into the military. But at some point, if they need you, they're going to get you.
Well, they're going to try, but it's like you said, the sense of duty is gone. You ever watched Band of Brothers, that HBO miniseries? If you guys haven't watched it, I recommend you guys go watch it. It's a great show. It's great. It's really heartwarming and heart-wrenching at the same time to see those men who went over in World War II into Germany. One of the first scenes with the old-timers, this is after the war, this is a good 70-plus years, they're sitting, they're being recorded, and they were talking about at the beginning of the war, how there was a guy who said, this is the difference between sense of duty and a sense of, like, complacency. He said 3 men went out and offed themselves because they couldn't go. They couldn't go.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. My family knows this about me, and if they're listening, they'll understand what I say. What I mean by this is that if there's a fire, I'll gladly run to it, and that's something I've always lived by, and I think that is because of this spirit of complacency building up. You lose that sense of duty, and men were born innately with that sense of duty, but if you have enough people saying you don't need it, and then also you're just taking in these different chemicals into your body that are like diminishing your testosterone and taking things away, that's
a thing.
That is a thing. With all these things combined, men are wimps.
Yeah.
They just are. I could say that from a place of knowing what it means to be somebody who is making decisions, who puts his foot down when he doesn't want something to happen, who has been in control of his own decisions. Without this sense of duty, you say they'll come for you, but the thing is, people won't off themselves because they can't go. People will try to off themselves because, they're going to force me to go or put me into prison. Right.
Well, one of the things that they'll do, and they do this in certain countries where they force people into conscription, they'll make an example of the first few.
Yeah, and then of course with the fear.
Yeah,
I get that. I do.
And so and that's what I'm trying to say is it's like because there's a lot of people who just, we don't want to die, and they tell you you're going to serve in the military. You're going to serve in the military.
Yeah.
The thing that's concerning me is how that, because Obama got in hot water when he said they've taken their oath and pledge to me, right? And there was even generals who were saying, no, they've taken their oath and pledge to the Constitution of the United States. And I think one of the things that's concerning to me is that the military has went very woke. They went very woke. And so what they're trying to do now is build a military that will come and kick your door in regardless of what the Constitution says. That's what's concerning me. And see, and that's why I brought this scripture out today, because where we are as a country is we have gotten to the point that we have zero moral compass and moral code that many people are going to be drug into something against their will.
Yeah, I'm going to make a prediction right now. Bear with me. This is going to be a bold prediction. If the United States falls, that's not the end of the world. Just want to put that out there. It's the end of this country's world, but it won't be the end of the world. The reason I say that is because America is just an experiment. It's not. It was never meant to be, quote unquote, established. It was meant to be ever growing, not restrained by anything. But what's happening now is people are putting restraints on that growth, on that buildup, because what America is a tree. It's a tree that was planted by a generation that never got to sit under its shade, and it is a tree that should continue to live on, but it is not being tended to. We are not pruning the branches back that need to be pruned off, because that is a hard conversation to have, and we are not changing the soil out. We are not irrigating. We're not taking care of it. We're not being stewards of this tree that we call America and the different branches, not only of government, but of the state. I will say it again. We need to be able to do that. And what has happened is that water has been put in different places. They have restrained, they've uprooted certain roots that have been dug deep down into it. And so when that tree falls, it'll be just like, and I got to get my nerd in, it'll be just like the vision of Minas Tirith. It'll be just like Lord of the Rings with the tree burning in the White City. Everything will fall, and it will be terrible here in America. But I want to be blunt. That doesn't have to happen if you just get up and you go out and you do the right thing. Vote, run for a certain position in your local government. Do not shut up. Just don't sit down and be out, because something I've been teaching my boys in youth group is we've been going over Micah 7:8. Do not gloat over me, my enemies, for though I am down, I shall stand back up 7 times. So do that. Make sure you go out and do that. Like I said last week, politics are downstream of culture. So start getting into your culture. Start making up the culture what it was, what it once was.
Well, it says the old statement that the roots of the tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of patriots. That's not a call for war. That was a statement of, again, there's only one place that a sense of duty comes from, and that is a sense of relationship with God.
100%.
And so, which we have in many cases in this country, lost. Now, there are some positive things, and we'll get into that later because we're running out of time. But if we lose our sense of faith in God, then everything else is cast to the winds.
Agreed.
And so the Bible is specific that when people do that, they become like a leaf that is shaken with every wind of doctrine.
Yeah.
So that's what I would leave with this week.
Hey, it's good to have Thomas back. I'm really thankful that you came back to help me
back.
out.
Love being back.
I hope that everybody, leave a comment in what we were talking about. I mean, we kind of got off track with the topic we had at the beginning, but I think it is I think what is great about that is that we had an exchange back and forth between the two of us. There were some things you disagreed with me on, some things I disagreed with you on, but the main topic was that sense of duty and being wary of what the enemy is doing just about everywhere. So for those of you who are believers, stay diligent in your prayers. We're very thankful for all the support that you guys have given us. This has been the Exchange Podcast. My name is JaVaughn Iversen. I'm with Thomas Tipton, and we're thankful. You guys have a good weekend.